Hi, this is Lori Rehfeldt, and I'm excited to have on soon my guest, Countess Clarke Cooper. Now, Countess, believe it or not, she is an award-winning artist, musician, minister, and chaplain. A native of Tampa, Florida, this multi-talented woman is also a public servant and businesswoman in the Washington, D.C. area. She's been working or had worked, she retired from the U.S. Department of Education, working in many areas of student financial aid. And that is actually where I had the opportunity to meet her, to know her, and to really see her shine. And she was just incredible to be around. Very, very charismatic, very caring, um, everything you'd want in a friend. She also, in addition to her job at Department of Education, and on top of it, she got a direct commission of Air Force National Guard. And it's fascinating. She was a chaplain, and her degrees, she recently also got her master's in divinity from Yale. Go. She's this is a woman who's going places. And she has won many awards, to include the Henry G. Maynard Preaching Award from Howard University School of Divinity, and won many talent shows, rendering a solo performance with a standing ovation to then President William J. Clinton. She currently lives in Maryland with her partner and her son, and I'm just going to let her do all the talking because she's incredible. Now, one thing that I'm excited about is that she is going to sing a song. And it says here that, believe it or not, she actually sang with some pretty amazing people. For instance, Frida Payne, Denise Williams. You'd be surprised to know that I know the song. Let's hear it for the boys. Who else? Cece Peniston, Melba Moore. So this is going to be a really, really good episode, and I hope you all, each and every one of you, enjoy it. We'll see you in a few. Hi, this is Lori Rehfeldt, and today I am with my dear friend, Countess Clarke Cooper, who has done extraordinary things in her life, more than I realized until I read her CV, and it's just incredible. She's won all these awards. She sang with Frida Payne and Denise Williams. Let's hear it for the boys. I bet you didn't know I knew that song.
I did not know
I
that.
know. I rock.
That's right, you do.
Yeah, that was 1984. Driving my
Right.
little red Chevette from Las Vegas, Nellis Air Force Base, all the way to
Yeah.
California. Yay. Listening to Denise Williams in the Mojave Desert. Go
Ah,
figure. Or Death Valley. Go figure. Yeah,
nice,
I
nice,
know.
nice.
I know. And they should be honored to be singing with you. Now, I got
Ah,
to tell you, I did mention briefly, ever so briefly, that when I first met you, I met you at the U.S. Department of Education,
yes.
and you were like a beacon of kindness and love. You would just like, it's
Oh,
like I had my guard up when I was there because I didn't have such a good time. And when I met you, I mean, it was pretty crazy time for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
And it was just incredible. And one thing you did is that after this big meeting we had in an auditorium, I will never forget you singing. Everyone left at this point, but you were singing to me, kind of like a cheer up, Charlie. No need to cry. No, sorry. And then you really surprised me that you decided after I retired from Department of Education, I hightailed it is what I did, and I left in 2005.
Uh-huh.
and I also retired from the Army Reserves.
Yes.
And then, yeah, a lot happened. In 2010, you got a direct commission in the U.S. Air Force
Yes.
Reserves, National
Yes.
Guard.
That's right.
And what I found really interesting that you don't know is that when I was in 1978, when I was at Air Force Basic Training,
Uh-huh.
I actually met the one thing that they would have us do on Sundays is we would go to the church just to listen to the minister, I guess, do, talk. And it was always so comforting because that was the only time no one was yelling at us. And so it's like, oh man, yeah, we're going to go to church because these chaplains are the best. And I've always had a really good rapport with a lot of the different chaplains I met over the years, and
Yes.
yeah, so I was aware that they got the direct commission, which I think is wonderful because bottom line is we needed more of them just to be there, um, and to really. I think what you did though is you've done more. You've stuck your neck out for the GLBTQA community and just not only discussed it but created a party. It's like, come on, we are going to celebrate.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Dancing
Yeah,
in the streets.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
They
And
don't,
and you were
they don't say gay for nothing.
yeah, and you were also participated doing functions at the Department of Education too, right?
Yes, yes. At a point, I became a part of the LGBTQ plus, LGBTQIA plus,
Thank you.
and allied employees at Ed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, was that at the main building or was that?
Yes, it was at the main building mostly, but on this one occasion, they did. I think at the time we were in three buildings across the city, and so the president at the time, Justice Tuya,
Mhm.
who I believe is still at the department. So he was so smart, so young. He's Unitarian Universalist, started out Mormon, straight
Wow.
Mormon family out of Hawaii, and now he works a lot in the Unitarian Universalist Church, and such a beacon light, so young
Yeah.
and so smart, and so I just learned so much from him. And so the U.S. Department of Education, because of that affinity group, not the people over in FSA,
Yeah.
at least not the people I was working under, but the affinity group was
Yes.
supportive in my development, you know.
Yeah. Well, I know the way I came out at the Department of Education was um, I was working with the union and
Okay.
they needed somebody to participate at at the main headquarters at the Department of Education to be on the diversity task force. So
Okay.
I was on the diversity task force where we wrote this huge, I think I still have a copy of it, huge document. And we spent several months, and it was with every organization within education. But I was the token lesbian. I'm like, okay, I'm here, we're queer. And most people are still in the closet, but hey, what the hell? I'm, might as well.
Well, you know what I find, Lori, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. The fact that you had asked me, and yes, I remember those days back at the Department of Education. I always my whole goal. I'm a public servant at heart, not necessarily
Mhm.
in a government agency per se, but I saw a mother who worked tirelessly in the community to make the community, to lift the community. So
Mhm.
that's what I've seen. She was always self-employed. She was always a businesswoman, so that she could speak truth to power. She was always with the least of these, so to speak, and so that's what I know. And that's what I sought to bring wherever I went. I believed that in my heart, even when I started out as an accountant at the Department of Education, that even though I knew that, well, what my mother said, you're a countess. So with that, she didn't say anything. It was just who she was being, that I knew what she said. She used to do poems and things and speak to people, audiences. And so she would say, I walk with the king. And she would say it,
Mhm.
very proudly and stately. And so I think from her legacy, I felt royal-ish, but
Mhm.
not royal-ish to forget people, but royal-ish to remember people, and royal-ish to lift people up. So that's why now when I say, rainbow breakthrough queen, it's not queen or king to
Mhm.
have dominion over everyone and forget about everyone and walk around in some air of elitism, but it's really, to lift people up and
Yeah.
to heal the brokenhearted and heal, that's, set at liberty the captive. That's part of my faith, but that's part of my faith that I want to practice, not
Yeah.
brush
Yeah.
under the, yeah. And so when I see people, anywhere, well, actually everybody, I try to see people. I think that's the word respect,
Mhm.
spectacle, like glasses. Can you keep re-seeing them? Can you keep seeing them when you don't understand them? Can you keep seeing them when you don't understand yourself? Keep seeing someone, or do you overlook them or forget about them when you don't like something that they did or something? So here again, my faith has caused me to love beyond what's comfortable. Like that whole
Mhm.
loving your enemies thing is like kind of showing up pretty real for me, because I find that there are a lot of people that haven't been so very kind, especially in the church. And
Mhm.
somehow, believe it or not, after all these years, not only do I still talk about the grace of a holy other universe, I call, it could be I call God, but I know everyone doesn't, you know talk about someone bigger than them in that way. It could be what universe, it could be Allah, it could be,
Yeah, I truly believe that we really haven't developed the language and the words to be more precise of who or what God is. I
yes,
I mean I tend to be I'm a Unitarian Universalist. Although
yes,
I was raised Roman Catholic and
okay,
didn't like it as a kid, although I was devout enough to see that God and Jesus and my indoctrination is love. And
yes,
if I could keep it at that, I'm good to go.
yeah,
But like I have a sister who, um, Donna, who is now a devout Christian, but
mm,
her Christianity is going down an interesting road. I'm not, it's gotten kind of mean, it's gotten kind of like she's having an issue with transgender people because transgender to her means that God gave you a body and he doesn't want you changing your body. And I'm thinking, I think you're putting words in God's mouth, so,
right, right.
so,
I think
you
that
know,
happens a lot, unfortunately. Go ahead.
and so in some ways, when I created this website way back about a year or so ago, it's called God, Aliens, and a Cup of Coffee, but I'm also moving to the Lone Ranger UFO podcast.
Okay.
And the reason being for that, and this is kind of an Air Force story, is because when I was in the Air Force, and actually before that, I've always been highly intuitive, you
Okay.
know, to the point where when I was a little kid, I would be afraid of, the ghosts and all these different things I could feel. I had that sensitivity that I could feel certain vibes, I
Okay.
always had it. So
Okay.
I get over to England, right? And I
Uh,
was stationed at RAF Bentwaters. And what's that?
what?
Are you changing something? I just
I
saw a blank.
Yeah, I think yeah. I'm not, but yeah, I'm back.
Okay, okay, okay. So anyway, I saw UFO, and
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was just one of those things that I was treated so badly that, I mean, I left England feeling like I was surviving because I was one of the few handful of women in law enforcement.
Mm,
And when the UFO flew across the base really low, and we had nuclear bombs there at the time, um, it was you had to I had to report it, and it was
right.
not it was hard, very difficult because I was pretty much shunned. I mean, it was like the worst that you could imagine, which I
Mm,
believe made me a good officer because I vowed I'd never treat people the way I was treated.
was treated. Yeah.
Yeah. And but so that's why I think the universe is has so much more going on than we really even know about.
I
And
agree.
yeah, and I just think that with all the different religions out there, if if we're going into war based on people's religion ideology that we really don't know about, we really need to rethink what we're doing. Like, the
Right.
Islamic religions and whatnot. They're all, um, and we got to pay attention to the fact that a lot of the religions that are out there are pretty sexist. They kind of,
Very
yeah, have women as, uh, you honor thy husband. And
right. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so I just always, and then the more I started reading, and I was reading a lot because my sister she brings things up and her interpretation, and I'm thinking, wait a second here, and I didn't realize that most of the books of the Bible were written like 20, 30, 40 years after Jesus died. I'm
That's
thinking,
right.
what?
In the New Testament, yeah, and the
Yeah.
ones in the Hebrew Testament that which is the Jewish people's Bible, it's the
Hmm.
New Testament.
Yeah.
We have taken it as Christians and call it the Old Testament, but that is their testament.
Hmm.
Judeo-Christian we are. In the New Testament, yes, 30, 40 years after, and then in the Hebrew Testament there's been several thousands of years before, if you're going back to the Torah,
Hmm.
which the Pentateuch, the first five books of the Hebrew Testament, first five, that was the law, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then some of the later books, they're not all in chronological order. They're in order. It's a library. It's 66 books. This is, of course, the Bible without the Apocrypha. So the Apocrypha, there are more books, or the Apocrypha, no, hidden. So the
Hmm.
hidden books, the Apocrypha. So the Roman Catholics have more books. So there are many scriptures. There are
Yeah.
many scriptures that have
And,
been.
and the other thing that's interesting is that I learned, from the Catholic side of things, is that apparently, I think in the 15th century, the Pope decided to take some of the books out of the Bible that were actually written by women. Go figure,
Yes. Yeah,
And,
so we have, yeah, so and they've been I'm glad that you're bringing this out. There have been many scriptures that have been written by a lot of people, and not all of them made the canon, or sometimes I like to say the lineup, just to, not
Mhm.
all of them made the lineup. But rest assured that just like, you and I have a testament or testimony of our walk with a holy other, somebody bigger than us,
Mhm.
so did some of those people. Now, I think what we do, people who came after all of those writings, we take all of those writings as if it's like we that were written at different times for different people in different places. In the Hebrew Testament, there are at least four traditions, and there are thousands of writers. But
Mhm.
we take it, we take a book as if it's one book that was written for one time for our
Mhm.
particular message at this point in time. So it's
Mhm.
anachronistic to take something that was previously written and put it in your context put it in your own historical context without understanding its original context, why it was written, the writers who contributed to it. There's the J tradition for the Yahwist. There's the E tradition for the Elohist, like Elohim. There's the P tradition for the prophetic, the J, the E, the P, and then there's one more that's escaping my memory. I'm in over 50, so some more is going out of my mind than ever came in, right? So yeah, but there are different traditions. And so when we read these traditions, we scholars who look at the Bible their whole life, there are people who sit on mountains in the Middle Eastern regions and just sit and they read into the Bible, and then the idea that people think that if you read the Bible a few times, that how you just then know all about God and you know everything, you know about heaven, you know about hell, you know about who's right, you know about who's wrong, and you don't even know where you put your keys. So here again, I'm like, I'm not believing. You know where I am with it, Lori. You know where I am with it. I mean, even the Bible says, God says, my ways are so far different than your ways. They got to be. Who else can put the sun in the sky? Who else can do the moon? Who else can make a tree? What is Joyce Kilmer? She says, I think that I shall never see a song, a poem as lovely as a tree who may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair.
Wow.
Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. You see what I'm saying? So
I just got a chill from that. That was beautiful.
I love poems. So yeah. And Unitarian Universalist. I love Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He was Unitarian. He was UU. Yeah, he was UU.
Yeah, I actually became a UU when I met Susan in 2002. I had no idea, I mean, I just think that in many ways, the way a lot of politicians are using Christianity that's really messing things up a bit. I
agree.
I had actually one UU minister on my podcast, Michael, no, Michael Carter. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's actually been on Ancient Aliens and several other different TV shows, and he's written books about angels and how all these things, how they fit into that they're real, and how they fit into what historically we look at angels and different beings, and how it's all actually in the Bible, that we kind of ignore these elements that we just when I guess Abraham went up to the something's going on. Yeah, this is where I use a really good editing software so I can edit this kind of thing out of it. So hang on one second. I'm gonna put it on pause again.
Okay.
Let me see here.
See.
Okay.
So yeah, where I am right now, after getting this kind of last big puzzle piece, trying to really reconcile between, why is there such a big disparity between what the Bible has to say about who God or this divine presence is versus what people are doing? Because people are not divine. I'm with you. It's all about love. All the major world religions are about love, and they always have been. But then why is there so much hatred in the world? Why is there so much alienation in the world? Why do we treat people like they're alien? You said about UFOs, and when you said what you saw, and you were doing your job, people began to treat you alien, or something, like you were saying something foreign.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so treating people like foreigners is the very opposite of what the whole faith is about. We revere, and it's that, so it's really backwards. So where I am now is that, you know what, I recognize, and I got this last puzzle piece kind of help cement together this view of what all of this religion, the disparity between religion and religious people,
Mhm.
and faith in something bigger than us, who's that something that's bigger than us is about love. That's how we were born. That's how we were created. For God so loved, it was love as a
I kind of,
motivating force.
it's interesting. I kind of think that we went through before we were conceived, we actually went through a portal. Well, before we went through the portal,
Mm-hmm.
we actually had a discussion with the powers to be. And they
Okay.
said, well, this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be going down to this place because I need you because you're on a mission, and this is what you're going to be doing. And I was probably very gung ho about it, say, yay, I'm there for you. I'm going to do it. And then God said, well, I'm going to throw a few, without telling you, I'm going to throw a few obstacles at you, but you don't know about it now. You're going to come into this world. You're going to be born a woman. That's going to
First
screw it.
obstacle.
Yeah. Second obstacle is people are not going to listen to you
Right.
because you will not be rich. You're,
Uh-huh.
you're not gonna but I'm gonna give you all these things that you've got to share with other
Yeah.
people.
Right.
And I will give you some gifts. I will make sure that you are highly intuitive and you can
Yes.
feel what other people are thinking
Right.
and you'll understand. But it's not going to be easy. So,
Right.
then the portal takes me through my mom, through
Uh-huh.
the womb, and I'm born. Oh, and I didn't tell you that when you're born, you won't even know how to walk or talk. You're going to have to
Right.
learn.
Yeah.
And that learning is going to get clouded with doctrine. It's going to get
Yes.
clouded with people telling
Clouded.
you this is
That's
this,
right.
and you're going
Clouded.
to believe it 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to believe that this is your place in the world. You wear pink, not blue. That you are a
You,
girl, you get the Barbie, you don't get the truck. And so it's like a lot of these little things and then when you put it together, when you find out, wow, you're 15, 14, 15 years old and you're attracted to your best friend, you know,
right.
another problem I'm giving you here. I'm like,
Yeah, how you love.
God, come on. Can you make it a little easy for me? Put me on center stage somewhere where I can do something
I
and
know, right? But
you
you
know
know what? I believe, Lori, because I think about some of those things too. I thought it's beautiful. I think that's beautiful how you just said that. I love it. The portal. I like that analogy. I really think that God created, this is the last thing I said on a prayer call, like this week. I said, you know what? I believe I was out there running. I'm still in the military. So I gotta kind of keep it in shape so I can
yeah.
pass my PT test. But I was out there running early in the mornings, like 5 or 6, something like that. So I'm out there, and then I was hearing the prayer call, and I see things. God shows me things, and
Hmm.
so I actually believe that God created us all. That's what the scriptures teach. So God created us all. This holy other created human beings. However, we were created by God, but I would say I was talking to primarily African Americans, kind of out of Baltimore. This is, but we were made in America,
Hmm.
created by God, but made in America. I'm American made. I somewhere African American, somewhere between the shores of Africa, the Ghana side, and the shores of America, people were made. Uh, yes, yes, they have roots in Africa, but there's something about America that just really shaped it. And there's something a bit foreign and alien and in a not good way
Hmm.
that was shaped and baked into our religion and our faith, that has nothing to do with God, but has everything to do with people's agenda, and
Yes.
oftentimes their inhumanity to one another. And I'm not lost on the fact that maybe God is a woman.
Absolutely.
Maybe God is a woman. And in fact, the Bible says in John 4 and 24, God may not even have any gender. So God could be considered transgender even,
There you
because
go.
God doesn't even have a gender. John 4 and 24 says God is a spirit. When Jesus is talking to the woman at the well, says God is a spirit, and those who worship God worship in spirit and truth. And what is worship? We get into church services or
Mm-hmm.
mosque services. What? No, that's your particular religion. But if there's one God, then when we say worship, what we're really saying, I like the John Maxwell definition, it's saying you're worthy. You're saying to God, you're worthy. Okay, that's what our rituals are supposed to be about for those in a monotheistic religion. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we say. That's what our scriptures say. The Quran, the
Mm-hmm.
Bible, the Bible with apocrypha. For the Roman. So that's what we're supposed to be saying. God, you're worthy, and because God is worthy, then we should treat everyone like they're part of our family, a human family where there's
Mm-hmm.
love. Now, I know there's going to be war. There's always going to be war and dissension and quarrels. But what the people who love God are supposed to be talking about, or if they love Mother Earth, because there's some religions, Native American, they worship the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But the earth is and so when we begin to dislike one another and treat each other in a violent or vile way because of what somebody believes in their head, we
Mm-hmm.
start treating them alien. We start treating them with disrespect. That is man's inhumanity to man, but that
Mm-hmm.
is not what God intended. We're all in one family.
Yeah.
God is a
Well, not
holy
only
parent.
that, to extend the family,
Yes,
we've got to include all sentient beings. I
absolutely.
truly think that if we're put in charge, if there's a stewardship where we're supposed to take care of the animals, uh,
Yes,
we're doing a horrible job, to be
I
honest,
agree.
with the
I agree.
factory farming and all this. We're
That's
cruel.
right.
And I kind of think that now this is where the UFO God part comes in. I
Okay.
think that the powers to be, especially near the bases with nuclear bombs, tactical nuclear bombs, whatnot, are freaking out because they look at us as we are so violent and we're playing with matches and we're treating other living beings as if they were a commodity and we're doing
That's
all
right.
this stuff.
That's right.
How will we ever get to that point? Because I realize that, people are now talking about, well, there are these UFOs, UAPs, and they're coming to Earth, and now we got to worry about them because we got to kill them because that's what we do. And personally, I really think that the powers to be out there are concerned with what we're doing to this gem, this beautiful place we call home, this Earth, and the way
Yes.
we're screwing it up and screwing up
Yeah.
all the all the beings that cannot speak. I
That's
mean,
right.
even yesterday, I had a cricket in the house, and I went and picked them up and took them outside, and I said, "Enjoy the rest of your life." I mean, that's just the way
Yes.
I've
Yes.
been operating, especially since I met Susan. Actually, she really opened my
Yes.
eyes up.
Yes. Well, we
Yeah.
thank God for your relationship, because that's what, hopefully we get a chance to learn when we're in relationship with people who are good, not only
Mhm.
for us in our lives, but also good in making the world around us a safer place, a greener place, a place where, and when it's greener, it's easier to breathe, when it's not toxic in the air, toxic in the hardened hearts, then people are able to breathe easier. And then we get a chance to realize, for those who are religious, we should get religious about Jesus, who we say we're following. Jesus said, I came in John 10 and 10. This is why Jesus came, said, I came so that you might have life and have it more abundantly. The God I believe in and the God that I see, who knows my sexuality, knows my gender, knows my class, knows all of that stuff. But the God I serve is bigger than that,
Mm-hmm.
because if God made everybody, what gender is he choosing? He's not choosing it. God, and God is not even a he.
Yeah.
God is the Bible. The Bible's commentary on this is that God is a spirit, and those who worship God worship in spirit and truth. And so, who's to say that our language? A theologian said our language is inadequate to describe our God. So, same thing you said. And when I hear people that have read 3 or 4 verses in the Bible, maybe 12 times, then they're kind of like, oh, I know everything. No, 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 no. When you put yourself in the place of God, then that's a problem, because then it makes God and the universe seem so small, makes it
Mm-hmm.
seem like our little community, but God is a big God, and there are a lot of people, and there are a lot of sexualities, there's a lot of ways of learning, there are a lot of people, ethnic backgrounds, a lot of creeds. And who am I to say that somebody on the other side of the world who doesn't even live like I live, they got their whole own life over there. Who am I to say that they're bad people and they're going to place for eternal? What is that except for power, control,
Mm-hmm.
domination, subjugation, tyranny? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of that when you start looking at the what how we create all these structures that
Mm-hmm.
we call our, the world we live in, based on our laws and based on all these other things that really separate people even more. I mean, that's what I'm
Right.
seeing with our world, and and you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's just really, just criminal, really.
It
I
is criminal, and
Yeah.
it's kind of evil. Like, and I'm glad that one of the things that I seem to notice, the people who some of the people who have been some of the leading contributors in society to trying to help make the world a better place than we
Mhm.
found it, and not just letting it go just willy-nilly, just down some wrong road where we're hurting people and killing people and all this kind of, because I'm in the military. But what I'm going to say, and you have served. I think we know, and I think this is something that the public doesn't always understand. We actually know the cost of war and fighting. Why? Because we put ourselves on the front lines, or somewhere towards the front lines, or making sure the front lines stay alive. Or in my case, as a
Mhm.
chaplain, I get a chance to walk alongside of folks on the front lines. I'm a big Geneva Convention. I'm a non-combatant,
Mhm.
right? So I don't carry arms, but
Yeah.
I am a part of the oldest part of the tradition of a military. George Washington, on June 29th, 1775, the first thing he did as the commander of the Continental Army is that he appointed 3 officers. One was a brigadier general, one was a quartermaster, or a logistics person, as you
Mhm.
well know.
Mhm.
The Air Force calls them logistics.
Mhm.
And then number 3, a chaplain. So we are as old as the fight for the nation. And so that's a good thing. And at the same time, it's complicated, because I pointed that out to someone in the Bronx, and they said, "Oh, but he owned slaves." He was a Puerto Rican fella, and so I said,
Yeah.
and that I don't like that. But he's
Yeah.
still the first president, and he's still a commander. And life is complicated. We're not all good, and we're not all bad. And I
Yeah.
think if people can understand that we're human beings, we're not robots, we're not chatbots.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with chatbots. I love Chat GPT these days. But at
Yeah.
the same time, if we could accept people as being human, it would make a big difference in the world. Uh, but we can't accept other people being human if we don't accept ourselves as being
Yeah.
human and imperfect. We're not
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, we're not perfect, but if we can find a way to work through those difficult times, there's going to be there's issues in the world that will not be
Yeah.
solved with simple answers.
Mhm.
But if we could use whatever we have from this being outside of ourselves
Mhm.
to discipline ourselves in a way of love, in a way of trying to understand the other, the world would be a much different place. I believe in the love principle. The
I do
love
too.
principle.
I do too. And I also believe that the weapon of choice is kindness. I think
Yes.
it's the best thing. That's the best thing you can do is to be kind, especially to those who are disenfranchised, who
Yes.
have lost, or those that don't have a voice. And
Yes.
there's so many out there, and there are a lot of times where I despise so many people, and a lot of them, and I know that's not the thing to do, but a lot of them happen to be white, and I'm like, I hate white people. And I actually said that to this woman. I I really, when I was living in Roanoke, I was working in the insurance field, and
uh,
I would go knocking on doors, talking to people. I was just loving it, and I'm an odd bird again, and I sat down with this one woman, and I realized that she she was a black woman, and
mhm.
she was definitely grew up and lived through the Jim Crow laws.
Yes.
And I said to her, I said, as a white person, I said, I am so sorry for what the laws that they laid down, because they were cruel, they were mean, and,
Yes.
and all I want to do is give you a hug,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
there was another one I was talking to, and kind of got on the same subject. And I was working with this guy that was kind of right wing.
Yeah.
So he never knew what was going to come out of. I had a script to read, but he never knew what was going to come out of my mouth. And he said, he said, okay, well, you're mending fences here. And then I walked in one time, and I looked at him because he was a white male privileged guy, and I looked at him, and I looked at this elderly black woman, and
Mhm.
I said, look at him. I said, I hate white people, especially men. And she's like, Lori, you don't have to hate them. It's okay. White people are okay. And I'm like, and I was like, yeah,
I love you, Lori Rehfeldt. I love you, and we need more people like you. I'm sending love through this
that,
podcast to you. I and I don't want to cry right now.
aw,
But yeah, yeah. Even though, even though I've gone to Yale Divinity School, and it was a wonderful experience. It was like I'm religious. I'm sorry, I can't get away from it. It
no,
was
it's
my
fine.
mountain of transfiguration. It's the place where I was most accepted in all ways: my sexuality, my
Yeah.
spirituality, my religion. God kind of lifted me, and of course, academically, it's par excellence. And so it was like God saying, I'm opening a door for you. I'm rolling up the sides
Mhm.
of the Red Sea for you, Countess. LGBTQIA for you, Countess. You
Yes.
you you are my beloved. For
Yeah.
you, no matter what the church says, you've held on long enough. You've gone through some things, and I'm showing you my mercy. I'm showing you my grace. I'm showing you my love. I love you with an
Mhm.
everlasting love. And so I
Mhm.
found it true. The very same things that I learned growing up as a child, they're still true. The gospel is still true. Jesus loves me. This I know. For
Mhm.
the Bible tells that I learned as a child is still true. It's just that some human beings came somewhere, and I like that word you used, the fog. They made
Mhm.
it foggy. They made it confusing. They started
Mhm.
to say, oh, I don't like this difference about you, but we're all different.
Mhm.
Nobody's the same, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
One of the,
it's
one of the
God's
songs,
handiwork.
yeah, one of the songs that we learned and this is in Catholic school. I went to Catholic school for about 7 years, and
Mhm.
but the song I thought was really great, and it was like, "What color is God's skin? What color is God's skin? I said, it's black, brown, yellow, red, and white. Everyone's the same in the good Lord's sight. And I thought,
Yes.
that's it. That's
I love it.
I
I
know
love
that.
that.
Yeah, I mean that one stuck with me, and the other one was, "Whatsoever you do to the least of my brother, that
Yes.
you do unto me. When I was hungry, you gave me something
Yes.
to eat. When I
Yes.
was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. Now
Yes.
enter into the home of my Father." You know,
Yes.
and I
I
thought that's the
love
way
it.
we should be. I mean, maybe
Yes.
if anything, if I was indoctrinated and maybe I was picking what I wanted to get out of the church, you
Well,
know.
you know what? I love it. And you know what I realized, Lori, and what I was going to say is that I've been trying to reconcile, and up until the last few weeks, like this has been a lifelong journey over 50 years. My mother was in this kind of headspace about things. And so I kind of picked up, and she had been
I
mentored by Nanny
remember.
Helen Burroughs.
I
So it's
remember.
like I'm like, how is it that people are so mean to each other, but they talk about all of this religion and God who's about love? So
Hmm.
what is going on here? Where is the disconnect? And so it
Yeah.
just finally came to me because I was looking at Charles Stanley in on the TV. I was like, I like what he's saying. What's wrong with it? Because I just came from Yale, and they're
Hmm.
all about the issues: social justice issues, gender studies, sexual orientation, non-binary. They're all about it. I mean, the chaplain, she has a group called Holy Queer, like
I
holy, like
love it.
WHOLY, like so holy,
Yeah.
but the word holy inside of that. So Holy Queer is a group there, and the chaplain runs it. Chaplain Peak. I love it. They supported me in an LGBTQ event. Of course, school is not in June when Pride normally is. So Yale has they have a Pride Week in April, and I was able
Oh,
to do an event there. And I am the first. I'm so excited that I am the inaugural chair of the Yale Black Seminarians post as a LGBTQ. I'm the LGBTQIA chair, like the first one. They like made the
wow.
position when I showed up. And so I want to inspire people, because I'm tired of all of these stovepipes that
Yeah.
God didn't make. Like God made all of the beauty of the rainbow of all
Hmm.
kinds of people learning in all kinds of ways. Black, white, male, female,
Hmm.
Hispanic, disabled, not disabled, poor, rich. If we will work together, the world will be a better place. I love what Martin Luther King said. Either we're going to learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we're going to perish as fools.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we see that happening. But you know what? I got tired. I love the Black church. And I
Hmm.
can say that now. But I don't, it's complicated because what I do not like about the Black church is they still are not accepting LGBTQIA plus people. So
Hmm.
how in the world are you going to want racial justice, and then you're going to be unjust to other
Yeah.
groups of people that you don't think belong? And then the whole patriarchal approach, which is the
Yeah.
same approach that America had, this sort of
Hmm.
patriarchal domination. This is also in the Bible. That's
Hmm.
why most of the books are
Absolutely.
by
Yeah, it's
men.
kind of like you want to look at the Bible as if it's a big closet, and you just like it's spring cleaning. We don't need this, and we don't need that. That
Well, you know what?
patriarchal stuff.
Well, you know what? I celebrate on today. And I'm out of the closet. I went to that 60th anniversary in Washington. I love what it was, either Al Sharpton,
Mhm.
Reverend Sharpton said, because his group put it together, but he made a great speech. He was like, the gays not gonna be, they were supporting LGBTQIA. They had the Jewish Anti-Defamation
Mhm.
League and others. And so it was nice. But he says the the gays are not going back in the closet. They gonna kick the closet door. And so yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm not going back anywhere.
No.
So when people say to me, because I know they're gonna say it to me, like the Black preachers, I'm a Black preacher. But you know what? They don't pay too much attention to me now because I'm a Black woman. And so that's a problem for me, that
Yes.
you want
Yes.
racial justice, but then once you get racial justice, then you're going to start parsing it out like it's yours to parse out. I read that the United Nations has 30 rights that all human beings have. It's even in our Constitution that even
Mhm.
Thomas Jefferson, who owned slaves, but even Thomas
Right.
Jefferson said that everyone, all men are created equal. All people are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. But you know what I've learned, Lori? We got to assert our right, our right to be free, our right to think. So I love it that you were able to speak up so long ago. It's scary to speak up sometimes, and because you don't know how people are going to react. But you were always you would always speak up, and you kind of had like a little hint of humor with it, but you were serious.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
So I'm sorry, I don't know the one thing that I want to say.
no.
God has blessed us all,
Oh yeah.
everybody breathing. That's
Mhm.
God's breath, the wind, the air that you can't see where it's going. Even the weather man and woman can't see. They trying to forecast. They can't. You can't nail the universe down like that.
No, no.
Try. And so that breath that we're breathing, God is giving it to us like oxygen.
Yeah.
And so all of these other schisms and quarrels and I'm better than you kind of thing,
Hmm.
based on all kinds of things, race, class, the
Don't
big
even want to
diversity.
waste. Yeah, don't even want to
Those
waste
are
time on that.
human. Those are human beings saying, I don't understand you. I don't like you as much because I think I'm better. Oh, I want more money. So I'm going to suppress. You killing
Hmm.
a Native American, you're enslaving, forced free slave labor for 200, almost 250 years. Come on, guys. That wasn't that doesn't line up with what we even say
Yeah, yeah.
Christianity.
You look at the people who are you know mostly the men who are in prison.
Yes.
Statistically, most of them are black, and
Yeah.
I just can't figure out why we can't get a former president in jail. He's done a hell of a lot more than so many other people,
I
and
know,
he's
right?
so hateful.
So
He's
hateful.
Yeah,
It's the
and
prison industrial complex. And you're
yeah.
right. I'm glad you said it because it's definitely been on my mind. I said,
Mhm.
okay, let me find out that he ends up being our next commander in chief. You know what? You know what I will add to my litany of stuff that's off and wrong? The fact that a lot of the men and boys in our community in jail in the prison industrial complex. Oh, by the way, they make money. They make money on each person in the jail. And do
Oh,
you know what I
absolutely.
learned at the Department of Education? They build prisons based on the grade, the test scores, third grade test scores on standardized tests. And so that's one of the indicators to the people who own prisons, how big they should make their prison. It takes a long time to make a prison. So once they build it, then of course they're expecting it to get filled. They want a return on their investment. And so I wish that they invested in people with the
Hmm.
same forecasting and energy to their development rather than their demise. So they're investing in their demise and they're
Hmm.
getting caught up in the legal system. And so that they make it happen. They
Oh
make it
yeah,
happen. Yeah, the prison industrial complex. So
yeah.
yeah, but what I would love to see is that people would honor people with dignity and respect more because that's who we should be.
Mhm.
Because that's going to take work if we just focus on that. That would take a lot of work, but we focus on the whole opposite thing. Has nothing to do us being hateful towards one another.
Mhm.
I never gonna understand how they
Yeah,
had American chattel slavery for
yeah,
250 years while they were at the same time they was having a great awakenings.
yeah, yeah.
No, my people suffer, and that's what caused me to well up with tears just a few
Hmm.
minutes ago. It's on the backs of
Hmm.
men and women who were unsung that I even get a chance to go and study at Yale.
Yeah.
Dr. James Pennington, they just recognizing him this year for when he went to Yale Divinity School in the 1800s. Well, thank God he's finally getting his degree. But a
Yeah.
whole bunch of people had to fight about it in order for him to get his degree. And so I'm happy he's getting it. But I'm saying these are injustices, and we just need to do better. That's what I
The
say.
one thing, yeah, the one thing that I liked, when I actually sat down and read, the speech that Martin Luther King gave is when he was talking about pretty much how we wrote out a check. What was that saying? We wrote out a check and we
Yeah,
defaulted on it,
yeah,
which just sounded so. when I first worked at Department of Education, I worked in debt collection. So when I heard the
Yes,
word default, I thought, yeah, yeah, we need to pay all the, we need to rectify this with all the people that we've hurt and we've killed and whatnot,
yes,
because as a country, we'll never get ahead until we do that.
exactly.
And there needs to be, I'm probably gonna have a hard time pronouncing the word, reparation.
Reparation,
We
yeah.
need to.
Yes. One of the reparations, and I think so too. And I am so
Except for Clarence Thomas, because he thinks he's white. So,
well, you know what? So so reparations, there should be some reparations. I
mhm,
think it does get complicated because people say, "Oh, well, you're going to give them this amount of money and that." But one of the models that has been working in terms of reparations is a friend and I were talking about it just this week. Those schools that do give students free tuition whose ancestors
mhm.
may have helped, build that school or something like that. African Americans helped build this nation,
Oh
and
my
it was
God,
on our
yeah.
backs. We didn't come through Ellis Island.
No,
Lady Liberty is not holding out her torch saying, "Bring me your tired, huddled masses yearning to be free." That invitation was not extended to us. We are the only people. I'm not saying the only ones who suffered. Native Americans suffered really bad by the annihilation of Native Americans on their own land. I don't know what's
yeah,
worse. Somebody coming in your house and killing you, or somebody stealing you from your house and saying, "Come and work
yeah.
this one for free." So the whole thing was bad. But we came through the belly of the Middle Passage. Uh, you
Oh my
know,
God, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the belly of the Middle Passage. And so that's why, and people wonder, why are they so religious? How could we not be?
Mhm.
If we were going to believe in God, we had to believe in something other than in this world, in this nation. It was so hateful and mean and
Yeah.
separating families and killing
The
people.
other thing too is I believe that Christianity, with a lot of the missionaries, was
Yes,
really imposed on a lot of different
yes, absolutely.
tribes and cultures that in
Yes,
some ways, that I think that's a problem too. I mean,
it is.
you,
It is because
because
they
mhm,
indoctrinated people to a certain mode of thinking and a certain way
absolutely.
of life. And in a that's kind of cultural, and they sealed it up and made it be official by putting religion over top of it,
Mhm.
by saying God, putting God in it. But it had nothing to do with Jesus. And they said it was Christianity, when in fact Jesus himself said, I can't, was poor, but they
Mhm.
was rich as all get out. That's the
Yeah,
total
yeah,
opposite. He was born poor and he
yeah.
died a state sanctioned death on a rugged cross in Rome. So
Mhm.
no, you can't just say be rich and that's Christianity. No, that's
Mhm.
a prosperity type orientation to the gospel. But what does that say to poor people? You see, so Dr. William Barber talks about that. He says there needs to be moral fusion among poor people. How can you take all the
Yeah.
poor? He had us at Yale. He had us cut all of the verses out of the Bible that deal with poverty. And he said, and after we did that, he said, "Look at this Bible. What is this Bible if you cut all the passages out that deal with poverty and justice? It's nothing."
Right,
That's why
right.
Jesus even came, for justice. Even in the
Mhm.
Old Testament, it says in Micah 6 and 8, what does the Lord require? These are requirements. You and I are military. We have requirements. It says, what does the Lord require? But to number one, do justice. Huh?
Mhm. Mhm.
Number
Yeah,
two,
yeah.
love mercy. And
Mhm.
we the total opposite. We killing everything coming and going, trying to be powerful. And then number three, walk humbly with your God. But we're trying to
Mhm.
walk like priests and kings and, just dominate. That is so
Mhm.
human.
Yeah,
That is so
yeah.
from biblical antiquity, because that's
Oh
what
yeah.
the Pharisees and scribes did. That's what leaders and so I've come, even though I'm African American, and I told you how much I get. My heart is
Mhm.
wrenched.
Mhm.
I'm in the military, so I love America, but at the same time, my heart is wrenched and it cannot be reconciled. It will never be reconciled because of
Yeah.
my people have suffered and they have bled and literally died to live.
Well, it's interesting is that um, I, when you talk about Fourth of July and that kind of thing, I am so I don't have a flag. I don't do anything with the patriotism because I'm so until they reconcile everything that you're talking about, I don't think there's any reason to celebrate. It, what it's celebrating is really the power of a small select group of people, and the rest of the people can fight for the crumbs. So, it's interesting is that, and it's so funny because I was indoctrinated that, when I first went in the Air Force, did you
Yeah.
know I was in the Air Force? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
you told me, and I saw on your logo, Major Lori Rehfeldt.
Mhm.
Yes, you're an officer.
Oh yeah, no, I purposely put it there because I was so, yeah, so I told you about the shunning and stuff. And it was my first assignment that
That
really,
was wrong. I just want to say that.
yeah,
That was wrong. It's wrong for anyone to shun anyone who's supposed to be a part of the force.
yeah,
And what leaders don't understand is that when you shun part of your team, you know that saying that says you're only strong as your weakest link. So if you
mhm,
have someone on your team that you think is weak, then if you're any you earn your salt as a leader, as a commander, as a president. If
yeah,
you're helping the weak link, if you think they're weak, then what are you doing to make a difference? But you're not a great leader if you
mhm,
can't lift
yeah,
the people on your team. You're not great. You just kind of managing it, but you're not great if you can't make the whole teamwork. See, Vince Lombardi, he worked with everybody on the team. They may have got
mhm,
some good people, but the people in the military too, they know
mhm.
you're a leader to help the people, not hurt the people.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry that
went to,
happened to you.
yeah. Well, I just want you to know that what happened is that it was about 1988, 80, yeah, right when I started working at Department of Education, I was looking around for a commission slot because um, and I was looking at the Air Force, and there was no room at the inn. So then I started looking at the Navy, and no,
Okay.
there weren't any slots. So the only place that had a slot for me was actually the DC National Guard.
Oh,
So
yay.
I actually got my commission through DC Military Academy,
Okay.
DCMA, and
Yes.
we were
Nice.
out of what was that base? Fort Fort, no, not McNair. What's the
Fort
base in
Lee,
Maryland?
Fort Henderson, Fort Myers.
Fort Myers. No, 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 that's
Oh,
Virginia. Uh,
yeah.
it's one that's got NSA.
Fort McNair.
Is that Fort McNair?
That's in DC.
No, it's not. It wasn't in DC.
Okay.
We were actually in Maryland.
Okay. Andrews.
No, we were we were Army.
Oh, bowling. Bowling.
You getting there?
Bowling. Yeah,
It
bowling.
was Army, an Army base. Where
Oh,
NSA is over
not
near Bowie?
Belvoir.
No,
Belvoir.
no, that's Virginia. Uh,
Meade, Fort Meade.
Fort, yes, Fort Meade. That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were there, and yeah, we were jogging all over the place. That was pretty intense too. So I went
Yeah.
to DCMA and
That's because you're a warrior.
18 months. What's that?
That's because you're a warrior. You got a warrior's heart.
Oh, yeah. I had
Yeah.
no idea at the time. All I know is that, I went to the DC Guard there, not right by JFK,
Okay. The
uh,
armory.
the Armory. Thank you.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I'll tell you, the hardest part of it was that, well, they interviewed me, and I didn't want anyone to know that I was Air Force. So when I first got there, they asked me, they said to all of us, all right, get your Alice pack out. And I'm like, Alice? Who's out? And they looked at me like, what the heck? And I said, all right, I admit it. I'm Air Force. Deep down inside, I'll always be Air Force.
Hey,
So
I'm Air Force too.
yeah, I mean, so Army is my second language. So when they said squadron, I had to think, okay, company, okay, flight, okay, flight. It'd be platoon.
But
Okay,
you know both languages. I love it.
yeah, yeah, but it was really different. I mean, I only got I knew all the enlisted rank in the Air Force, but the Army, it got really kind of sketchy at the end. So I kept calling people for the first several years when I'm the second and first lieutenant, command sergeant major, you know. I wanted to make sure I wasn't offending anybody. So they were all, and-
Gave them
but
all the
they,
highest rank.
yeah, yeah. But I worked logistics. I worked I was quartermaster.
Yes,
So I did
yes,
that for
yes.
several years before I started working for radio television broadcast unit out of Fort
Ah,
Meade. So
nice.
I was part of a broadcast unit, and then at that point, I adopted a little girl from China, and that's
Yeah.
why I got off of active duty, was
Okay. Okay.
because I felt like she had been in the orphanage for 4 years
Oh
of her
no.
life in China, and
Wow.
I couldn't see at that time. The Iraqi war was going on. I couldn't see myself, going back and forth because they started treating reservists like active duty. And I said,
Oof.
I did 27 years. I think that's good.
Yeah.
It's good
Wow.
enough. And
That's huge.
yeah, and I didn't leave right after I didn't leave once the war started. I was around for 3, 4
Oh wow.
years.
Yeah.
And then then I adopted a little girl, and that's the reason I got off of active duty was because of my son. My son was born,
Okay.
and they
Okay.
wanted to send me to Korea. So
Okay.
instead, and then I moved over to Fort Belvoir. I was
Okay.
I was
Okay.
working there, and that's when
Nice.
I got to do a lot of traveling and having fun. Got to go to Germany several times and Korea and all these different places.
That's
So,
awesome.
oh yeah,
You know
oh
what?
yeah.
Thank you for your service.
No, no, and thank you for your service and what you're doing with helping so many people. Probably they listen to your words, and it really helps their self-esteem and help them
Yes.
feeling like they're not alone. And to me, that is so important. And I am concerned about the trans community
Yes.
because there seems to be more hate toward them than I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty bad, but it's gotten worse, and unfortunately, it's a lot of these so-called Christians. You know,
Yeah. It's a
I
problem.
think I think Jesus wrote a letter about that, sent it to the President of the United States, and said, "Do not use me in your talk
That's right. That's
because
right.
because I don't want to be that kind of that's I'm not about hate."
Yeah, Lori. I say, I don't know if it's Bon Jovi or you too. That the title of this song says it all. You give love a bad name. A lot of these Christians who are out here hating hard,
Yeah,
bombing this because they believe in life and all of that. That they give love a bad name. They
yeah.
give the religion a bad name
And
because they're not loving.
most of the people that are getting beaten up by all of this are are people that have so little. And the
Yes,
irony of it is the people that have so little are the ones who are giving. They give
they
everything.
yes,
I have a guardian angel up in heaven. Her name is Dolores Rhodes, and she at one point I was trying to sell her insurance, and at one point I completely stopped. It was like this voice inside my head said, "Lori, you are in the presence of love."
yeah,
And I'm not, and I was talking to her and I said, "I'm going to keep an eye on her." And she had told me I was selling cancer insurance at the time, and she told me that she had just learned she had lung cancer.
wow,
And I just stopped it. I was just talking to her, and she was
wow,
she was my friend, I mean,
yeah,
but I knew I was in front of somebody that was more important than any politician, anyone who's famous. She was all about heart and love, and
right,
it was interesting because she's this little black lady. She had been a bus driver in Roanoke, Virginia, and she was always, always helping people. In fact, I
wow,
went into this one, it was a building where there were a lot of, what do you call that, subsidized housing.
yes,
And I went into this one apartment, and this woman actually had this article, this newspaper clipping on her wall, and it had Dolores on it. And I said, you know Dolores? And she looked at me, looking at me again, because I'm a white woman. You know Dolores? I said, yeah, I'm an insider. I'm around the powers that be. So so then
I
she,
love it.
about a few days before she died, I said, Dolores, can you do me a favor? She's looking at me, and she's like, Lori, anything for you. And I said,
Yeah.
okay. I said, when you get to heaven, can you teach Patrick Swayze how to really dance? And she said, that's my man. That's my man. And and then I found out few days later she did pass away, and I mean I
Wow.
was distraught.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we just breathe that in. Yes. No. Yeah.
So here I am at this funeral home, and
Yeah. It's all right.
excuse me,
No,
her
it's
her
okay.
daughters were there. They saw
Yes.
me coming out, and all of a sudden I saw the daughters, and I gave them a big hug.
Yes.
They didn't even know me, but they heard of me, so I guess they found that, oh, this must be the woman that mom's always talking about, Lord. And
Okay.
anyway, it's just so amazing how someone like that
Yeah.
can really touch your soul.
Yes.
And but it was all about kindness. But
Yes.
God, the powers to be, the universe told me, Lori, you are in the presence of someone really important to me.
When you live in a place where you've been subjugated or suppressed just because of
Mhm.
some God-given attribute of yourself, you
Yeah.
constantly 24/7 live inside the awareness of
Hmm.
yourself and who you are. So as an African American, even though maybe the world doesn't think African American, but my whole world is always 365 days of the year African American. And so I've had to learn. I've learned not only the souls of Black folk, but the souls of Black folk in America who may not always appreciate them. I've learned uh, what it is, the beautiful part about being a woman and loving women and men
Hmm.
inside of a world that only understands loving one gender, it's the opposite, and so I've had to negotiate all of what we normally do, what's supposed to
Yeah.
be standard and normal, but
Hmm.
my normal is different than everybody
Hmm.
else's normal. And so I have to live in a community where actually lesbian and gays have more it's
Hmm.
as the community goes, they get a little more privilege than the bisexual. So people understand them a little bit more than the bisexual. So I don't talk about that part a lot, like that I'm bisexual, but I am. So it's so I really do kind of see the world as a world where folks are not talking about the issues that I deal with every day.
Yeah.
um,
Oh
but
yeah.
God
Oh
has
yeah.
helped me love back enough. God has loved me enough
Hmm.
and has given me a purpose wherein now I'm called to love and be and see love that may not be around me. The people around me may not love. They may be talking hate in America towards African Americans, in the Black community towards women, like the Black church. They
Hmm.
still, that's a Black boys club. That's the old Black boy
Oh
club.
yeah.
But still, I love what I love, and what I have decided that I refuse to let the powers that be, or even these sources of tyranny, and I refuse to let them take away my joy, to take
Yeah.
away my life, to take away. I'm gonna live my life, and I'm also gonna work on the issues as well, and I can do both because God has given us a whole life, and we can do both. We need
Yeah.
we need to still be fighting about the rights, but at the same time, sometimes you need to breathe, go
Oh, yeah.
stand by the river, see the nature. And so, I think, there's so many things that I want to say, in the
Yeah.
world that are often wrong. I mean, Black folk, the ones who were very conscious and maybe had some degree, had some resources or something like that, a lot of them are anxious and trying to find their place.
Yeah.
But I believe God has given us also, and here again, this is what my faith talk, and I gotta believe in God, because
Mhm.
that's where I get my sense of being able to breathe inside of a world that may
Mhm.
not understand me in so many ways: race,
Yeah.
class, sexuality. Then being
Mhm.
a chaplain, it was like the Black folk. How you gonna be a chaplain? Black women, a lot of you supposed to be home being a mother, and so I
Mhm.
want to be a mother, and I've been called to be a chaplain. And you know what? I'm just at the place that, God has helped me get to this place where I love more than I can see the people around me loving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Girl, keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was down at the Defense Equal Opportunity School, I got to go down there. Have you been there?
Naomi,
Yeah,
Naomi,
Naomi? Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
got kicked out of there for putting equality down at the time as a value. And I actually did NOW with a big circle around it, and they didn't like that. And this was like
right,
right after Don't Ask, Don't Tell, that whole thing. And
right,
and
yeah.
they zeroed in on me and realized they thought, oh, she must be one of them. And so yeah, so I got railroaded out. It was pretty wild.
And
You
you know what, Lori? I'm so sorry that those things happen. But what
know.
I'm gonna say, it doesn't
No, no,
it
I'm
doesn't make up for it. But
fine.
what I would say is that I stand on your shoulders. You
Mm,
help pave the way. The people who went first, they usually,
yeah.
like Jesus went first in a way and got crucified.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people who speak out and do, and they haven't even done anything wrong, they're trying to do everything right. Sometimes they get the worst,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
worst backlash. And so I really stand on your shoulders as an LGBTQIA plus American serving in the military.
Mm,
It's people like you who've gone before and spoken out. It's women like you who serve, put on the uniform and
mm,
serve nobly for 27 years.
mm,
Serving only 1% of the population does it. And so the fact that you're a woman serving in what tends to be a male dominated
mm.
profession of arms, it's changing. Thank God they're changing. Everybody's changing. So here again, I thank you, but for paving the way so long before you and many other women.
Oh
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
just want to acknowledge you for that.
Well, I'm just, yeah. I mean, it's interesting though that even came before me. I mean, to think what
Yes,
that was like, but and to see where they are now, I do see that there still needs to be a whole lot more work,
yeah,
because it's still like, I'm not sure. I think women are now what, 17 or 20% of the military, so it's
yes,
it's still not that large.
yes,
But at least they're able to do more than I was able to uh,
yeah,
back in the day when there was
right,
only 5% of the women were in the military. I had
right.
no idea. I was 18, so you're like, oh,
Wow.
I didn't know that. No wonder why they don't like me. I mean, I was told things I should be barefoot and pregnant, and I said, no, I'm too young.
What? Well, the other thing is, so I mean, we're making strides. Of
Mhm.
course, it's not as many strides as we would want to be made because we're women every day, and so we know what freedom looks like. We know what it's like to have life, and so we know what it's like when we're in places where we
Yeah.
don't have as much. So that should change, yes. But I do want to acknowledge that because of the military in my personal life, because of the military, that's the only place. I told them in Kuwait. I was in Kuwait on the military deployment, and I was on the women's empowerment panel. They had me like
Mhm.
first of 10 women.
Mhm.
If I had, like, I believe God called me to be a military chaplain, and I
Mhm.
didn't know why because I never, I hadn't been looking at that per se, but
Yeah, I was wondering how that happened.
yeah,
How you got into it.
a recruiter came to the Howard University School of Divinity in
Mhm.
'97, and he only said 2 or 3 words as he put out the brochure.
Mhm.
When I reached to get the brochure, think sci-fi. It
Mhm.
was like Star Trek, like I was sucked into some vortex of yes, which is
Mhm.
totally not me. I got to ask 1,000 questions. I didn't even know what it was. I was like,
Mhm.
but I knew it was for me. I was like, well,
Mhm.
how do I? But I think that was God planting the seed
Mhm.
early
Mhm.
on to say that
Mine,
I'm
mine
calling
started
you.
out. Mine started out with a brochure also. So there you go.
That's right. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
calling me to a ministry that I love. It's an
Mhm.
interfaith ministry, just like the UU is an interfaith kind of
Mhm.
religious denomination, and I love the UU, and
Yeah.
so is the military, and I love being
Yeah.
able to interact with young people,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
that's
yeah.
the young people who are religious and not religious at all.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And they're and you're in a position where they really want to listen.
yeah,
And
yeah. They
especially it's
come
nice
to
when
me.
yeah, especially it's really nice when they're talking to somebody that's not gonna
Yeah, get them in
like
trouble and try to
yeah,
ding them and try to tell them all these little narrow ideas about life,
yeah.
based on their thinking. I just know that I don't know enough. And I go with a spirit of humility. I don't know about the whole world. And I'm not even trying to at this point. I think I realize I know how much I don't know. Erasmus
Oh yeah.
said that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And
But
you
I
you
would
know,
say
and I
that I
really
wouldn't I wouldn't have a ministry. I wouldn't this I believe that the military is the only place where someone like me, a Black girl from the South,
mhm.
uh that grew up in the Black church and loves the Black church, would even get a chance to serve and have respect, and have the amount of respect that an officer gets in the military. But because of the tradition and courtesies, I get a kind of respect as an
Mhm.
officer in the military that I never have gotten in the churches where I grew up.
Oh
In
yeah. Oh
fact,
yeah. Yeah.
this year they're still talking about it in the church where I grew up. Even though I learned about God and got a lot of love there. They have something called Articles of Federation, Confederation, or something like that. And they say, women can't preach and all that kind of stuff. But I know better, because Jesus gave that role already to the woman at the well. She was the first person to say, "Come see a man." They're sitting there with Jesus, and God already gave she was the first gospel minister, was a woman. It
Wow.
was it was it was Mary. And doing my research, I was surprised to learn that over in Europe, when they talk about Mary, on Easter, that's the high holy season, that's the high
Mhm.
Jesus resurrection, that's it, that's the mystery of our faith, that whole
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
The first person to tell that message of the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, this for all these Christians out here that
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
patriarchal in
Mhm.
nature, you need to check yourself, because the facts that I read, and you can read it again, is that Mary was the first one to tell the gospel
Was,
message.
was
Now,
it
the men didn't believe her.
was it Mary the mother or
No,
Mary
no, no.
Magdalene?
They believe it's a Mary Magdalene.
Okay.
Yeah, she
Okay.
was the first one, because she went early in the morning carrying the spices, and then he wasn't there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wasn't there. And so then she ran back to say, "Oh, my Lord, and so Peter, but just like today, the men were kind of like, I'm gonna run and see for myself. So, okay, well.
Mhm.
But the facts remains, the record shows that Mary, she was the first one on the scene, and she's the first one to tell the message. And interestingly enough, in Europe, there are many places in the Roman Catholic space where they say she is the apostle to the apostles.
Wow. Wow. And I guess somebody wanted to rewrite her history by having her as the you know to be a prostitute or whatnot.
Well,
But
it said that there was a Mary
Oscar,
Magdalene, and that
Oscar
she
Pearl.
had that. But what they also forget, so what they told me in seminary, there may not be a lot of stories in the Bible about women as much as there are about men, but the stories that are in there, if you really look at them, if a lot of these preachers really looked at it, then they would see that God honors women. You
Hmm.
see, God
Hmm.
has always honored women. Like
Hmm.
I said, not a lot of stories in the Bible, but as some of the professors said, that those stories say a whole lot about how God regards women
Wow. Wow.
in the status of equality. And it's in Genesis. There are two creation stories in Genesis.
Hmm.
The conservative evangelicals like to focus on the story that where the woman is being taken from the rib of a man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but there's another creation story right there with it that they just gloss over, jump over, and it says, male and female, he created them. Now, the first time I heard that, probably like a lot of Christians who
Hmm.
grow up, if they grow up in a conservative evangelical sort of framework, they're going to say, oh, no, 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 no. No, I mean, I said that too because I never heard it. So I thought it to be formed, but once you study, it's
Hmm.
right there. They're two creation stories, so and one of them there's an equality. Like God created male and female, he created them.
Yeah.
You see. So here again, I think the cutting and splicing of the universe of God, those are something that human beings, like to overlay on what's actually there.
Yeah, but I think creating rules that
Yeah,
often don't apply to the small amount, there's that
that's right.
1% it doesn't apply to, or they just ignore it. That's, no, no, we just use that to keep the others quiet. Kind of like, well, keep them working hard so that, they're never going to get anywhere, but, we'll just keep them working hard, and then we'll give them the
Right.
thought that if you work hard, you'll get promoted, you'll make good money, and you'll get to live a good life. And
Yeah.
and then you find out that that's a crock. One of, just let you know, and then I'm thinking we might have to do a part two.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to have you back on again.
Well,
Um,
I would love that.
I
It's
was gonna
rainbow
say is that
breakthrough for me. Yeah.
right before I left Department of Education, I got really, really, I don't know why, I was kind of burning with some bridges, and I finally got fed up with the fact that the majority of the working women that I was working with at the call center, were black. And I finally went up to Ryan, what was his first name? Bill Ryan.
Bill Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, and I said to him, I said, you've got a blonde fixation. I said, you got to get over it. All you are doing is promoting women who are blonde. And I said, it's that obvious. And I was like really, really pissed off. And he goes, oh no, you can't say that. You can't say that. I did, and I believe it. And then, and then I actually had reached out to Terry Shaw's office. I was probably in Terry Shaw's office like 3, 4 times. She kept calling me to have me go upstairs. I said, I think I'm in trouble again. Because I told her, I said, look, the people who are getting all the cash awards, majority of them are white men. And I said, I don't even have to look at the data. And she said, well, you're not allowed to look at the data. And I said, believe me, I am. In fact, I'm going to get the Freedom of Information Act and get
There
it.
you go.
And I
There you go.
did. And I did. And it was exactly what I said. I said, oh, this really makes me sick.
Yeah.
It's like the crumbs to the little ones. And then the big money went to mostly white male,
Yeah.
you know.
And to your point before, a lot of the people who work the hardest in organizations are
Very
often
little.
times overlooked the most. Yeah.
Yeah. But I had a few people, I remember Patricia Lyle saying to me, she
Yes.
goes, Lori, you are so authentic. I
Yes.
said, well, sometimes you have to hear it. You have to hear it from somebody who's not black. You need to hear it from somebody who's white.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I just think that because it's wrong. It's wrong. And um, so
You're
yeah,
right.
so when I left the Department of Education, I felt pretty good. I mean, for myself, I felt like
Yes.
verbally out loud spoke what I believed in. Because I told him, I said, you got all these black women working their asses off, and who are you promoting? The blondes or the men.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he was like really upset with me. He was, I really liked you and all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I was your token lesbian and you weren't going to promote me either. So there you go.
I
Yeah,
love it. I love it.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
you take them to task, Lori. That's awesome.
yeah,
You
yeah,
got a,
yeah,
that's why I say you got a warrior's heart, and I love it.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny when I was at Daomi, actually I was at Daomi when I got kicked out is when I was actually going there to help them to be like kind of like an instructor sort of, but not really. And so I'd been there 3 times, but the first time when I went there, um, they gave out little toys to us at the very end of what they each of us was they reminded me of or reminded each of us of what of us. So if people got different things. And then the 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 woman that was in charge, she handed me a knife, like a toy knife. And I'm like, what's this for? And she said the same thing. She said, you're a warrior. You're always, you're fighting. You're going to be fighting. And,
Yeah.
and I kind of just took it and thought, okay, yeah.
You're using your voice to make a difference in the world.
I want to, well, back to what I said earlier, before I went through the portal, God said, this is a mission.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
You
you're
know?
on the mission, and using the skills that you've learned, you said radio broadcast and TV and those sorts of things, and so you're doing that now, and
Yes.
that's awesome. You're doing it on your own, and you're doing it for a good cause.
Yeah,
That's
I truly believe that. There was a woman I met who recently passed away. She was a black woman. Her name was Celestine Starr. And
okay.
I met her at the Cosmic Cafe, part of Contact in the Desert, and she was the facilitator. She's written a couple of books that she's really good, so if you get a chance to look her up.
Okay.
But she passed away. She's actually one of my two of my podcasts. But one of the things that they did that was a disservice, that even in the um, say the UFO community and people trying to figure out what's going on in the universe, they still don't look at women, and they don't ask for them. And it was a big loss that the people that put on the Contact in the Desert conference, she wanted to speak and she was incredible and she should have spoke.
Mm,
So, she's one of my other guardian angels. So I said, don't worry, I'm still gonna say your name and people are gonna know about you and they've got to know that Contact in the Desert lost out
okay.
on listening to this amazing woman.
Wow.
And yeah, the other thing I'd like to do is have you on with also Michael Carter. It'd be fun
Okay.
listening to. And do you go
Yeah.
by Reverend or minute? What's the Reverend? Is
Well,
that
my
the
official
title?
title, I'm ordained in the United Church of Christ. I started out in the CME Church, which was originally the Colored Methodist Episcopal Church, Methodist in
Mm-hmm.
the South, Black Methodists in the South. But then they later in history became, after 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education, desegregation, then they changed the C from colored to Christian Methodist, this Episcopal Church. So
Oh,
in the CME church, when I played over there, I got licensed to preach. I just been to all kinds of churches,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
mostly black, but black and white too.
Uh-huh.
And so I love it,
Oh,
from
yeah.
I say
I
from
can see
God's
it in your
whole,
face.
yeah, I say from the God's holy road, from the chosen frozen to the holy rollers, right? I've been
Oh, there
there
you
and I
go.
love it. I love it. I love the hymns of the church. Great is thy faithfulness. Come thou fount of every blessing, as well as on to the songs that my people sang in those hush harbors that got them through these difficult that
Mm,
250, almost 250 years of subjugation, domination, and that evil institution of American chattel slavery. Uh,
absolutely.
even while American Christianity was going strong. So that is a sore spot for me. I think that it should be recognized the terrible atrocity of humankind towards humankind, just as much as the Holocaust is recognized for
Mhm.
those who are Jewish. We don't want
Oh,
to compare suffering, but the suffering that is going on in the African American community never ended. It
no.
just, as the Equal Justice Initiative (EJI) says, it just evolved. You see,
Mhm.
and we had the Jim Crow, and we had the, now we got to have civil rights. Now we got to figure out, can we still vote, because that ran out. So
Oh yeah, no, no, no.
yeah,
It's all systemic. It's also,
yeah, systemic, yeah,
it's all built into the system, and
yeah.
if you got the white boys and girls in Congress, I mean, some of these people are just, it's really just been, to me, bizarre watching it and thinking
It is
that
bizarre.
it's gotten worse, and it's kind of, yeah, it's like you want to say to them as if they're in second grade.
Yeah, I
Boys
know.
and girls.
I know.
I just, yeah. And so it's like a push-pull thing. Have we gotten better? In some ways, yes. In many ways, no.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that's why I like having these conversations, and, actually, I mean, the last one I had was with this young man who's 2 years younger than me, um, George Conway, who was at RAF Bentwaters the same time I was there,
Okay.
and I was talking about how they used silence to to um, to keep the lid on it. That there was
Mhm.
a big Rendlesham Forest incident, it was called. And when I had my UFO incident, which was 9 months earlier in February of 1980, they didn't have to do much with me because I'd been there almost 2 years, and I was worn out, and there was no way I was going to, I was low crawling. I was low crawling to get out
Wow.
of there. And here people thought, wow, Lori's over in England, I'm 18 years old, 1978, and I get to this place and I could feel it in the air that something was wrong with the place. I mean, it was really disturbing. And then dealing with the BS from, these young guys telling me I should be barefoot and pregnant and all this other stuff. And I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
sexism.
being shunned, all that stuff. But the atmosphere, there was
Discrimination.
something really wrong with the place. And then when this UFO sighting happened with the guys, they had them sign statements that they didn't even write, that
Wow.
said that they will not talk about it. So when I
Mm.
was talking to George was sleeping. So he was home sleeping, and when he woke up, they told him he was going to work on a different flight. He was going to work day shift and not swings and mids. And he had no idea until 19, now that's 1980. He didn't learn anything until Robert Stack got on TV and was talking about the Rendlesham Forest incident in 19, at that point it was 1994. I didn't find out about that it came back. The
Hmm.
Rendlesham incident happened 2 weeks after I left. I didn't learn about it until 1997.
Hmm.
But just to see the hell that they put people in, it was just, it was not good. And it's still
Wow.
not good. Some of the people are still being treated terribly about this whole thing.
Wow.
So,
So sorry that
so
happened.
yeah,
But I'm glad you're here, still
yeah,
speaking. That
yeah.
it didn't overtake you, and it didn't steal your fire.
No, and then, yeah, it gives me a moment to say that the commander at the time was effed up, and
Mm.
years, and I was worn out, and there was no way I was going to, I was low crawling. I was low crawling to get out
Wow.
of there. And here people thought, wow, Lori's over in England, I'm 18 years old, 1978, and I get to this place and I could feel it in the air that something was wrong with the place. I mean, it was really disturbing. And then dealing with the BS from, these young guys telling me I should be barefoot and pregnant and all this other stuff. And I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
sexism.
being shunned, all that stuff. but the atmosphere, there was
Illumination.
something really wrong with the place. And then when this UFO sighting happened with the guys, they had them sign statements that they didn't even write that
Wow.
said that they will not talk about it. So when I
Mm,
was talking to George, George was sleeping. So he was home sleeping, and when he woke up, they told him he was going to work on a different flight. He was going to work day shift and not swings and mids. And he had no idea until 19, now that's 1980. He didn't know, he didn't learn anything until Robert Stack got on TV and was talking about the Rendlesham Forest incident in 19, at that point it was 1994. I didn't find out about that it came back. The
mm-hmm,
Rendlesham incident happened 2 weeks after I left. I didn't learn about it until 1997.
mm-hmm.
But just to see the hell that they put people in, it was just it was not good, and it's still
Wow.
not good. Some of the people are still being treated terribly about this whole thing.
Wow.
So,
So sorry that
so
happened.
yeah,
But I'm
it's
glad you're here, still
yeah,
speaking, you know, that
yeah.
it didn't overtake you and it didn't steal your fire.
No, and then, yeah, it gives me a moment to say that the commander at the time was effed up, and
Mm,
I don't, on the other podcast, I would say his name, I'm like, it is what it is, it's like, own up to it, Bill Ryan, own up to it. Another person that keeps black people down and the white blonde haired people up. So, it's wrong. Terry Shaw had blonde hair, so go figure. So, anyway.
ah.
I'm so bad, but it is what it is, as they would say. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to have you sing the song now. I'd ask you, but if it's okay with you, we're going to end here.
Okay.
And I have to use the bathroom, so anyway.
Okay.
And I'm going to cut that
Okay.
out too.
Okay.
So I will talk to you soon, okay?
Okay.
Countess Clarke, Countess
Yeah, that's right.
Clarke
Clark Cooper.
Cooper,
Hmm.
Cooper. I'll get it. Countess Cooper.
It's only a line. It's only no, not my name. It's only a line that I was gonna sing. You don't want to hear just
Oh
a
yeah. Oh please. Oh please.
there's
Yeah.
more. It's a you hymn.
Oh.
And my you friend in Provincetown gave me the hymn book, and but
Okay.
there's more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on to
Countess Clarke Cooper.
love
Mwah.
you.
And I'll be talking to you soon.
Yes, all right.
Okay. Bye
Take
bye.
your break. Bye bye.
Bye.